Good evening, all. Welcome to the 6th INA Technical Test of 2025. Today we have a talk by Professor Misra, who requests no introduction in the Naval Actics Forum of India. He is going to talk on the glorious water transport heritage of Kalinga. And the chief guest of the day is Shri Purushottam, former Director General Resources and Management at DRDO. Regarding the topic, Professor Misra was asking why this topic. One of the things we reflect is the East Coast and the West Coast histories, which are a continuum. And we learn a lot from the traditional boats as we expand both in inland and coastal waterways regarding the designs, which are evolved through centuries. So it's also contemporary technical information, not just of historical interest. We'll hear a lot on this. And first, I'll introduce the chief guest of the day today, Mr. Bej. He graduated in civil engineering in '86 and has a postgraduate from IIT Kharagpur in systems and industrial management. He was working in defense research and development of DRDL in tactical and strategic missiles, part of the IGMDP program, which was the development of the 5 missiles as we know. And from there, he just shifted to the techno-managerial side after this thing. And he was in charge of all the contracts and material management, which is one of the most important parts of any projects. And with this experience, and he was in project boards, program management boards, and Apex boards, continuously vital part of ensuring that all the projects get all the resources. And then he was involved in contracts as Deputy Director of Contracts and Material Management. And from there, he took over as Director of Material Resources during 2005 and as Associate Director, Reliability and Quality Assurance of the laboratory and ensure the lab is getting ISO certificate. After that, he was a Director of Administration to assist the Director General Missiles and Charging Systems at Hyderabad, which means taking care of around 6 laboratories, basically, as the administrative roles for 6, integrating administrative 6 laboratories in the cluster. And he was also sponsored to do IEDPM in 2017 to enhance his project management skills. And in 2019, he moved to DRDO headquarters as Director of Finance and Materials Management, overseeing the entire financial management of entire DRDO with 51 labs. And we know the DRDO budget. And with the entire financial management. And from there, he, in 2002, was elevated as Director General Resources and Management, which involved the Directorate of Planning and Coordination, Finance and Materials Management, Vigilance and Security, Parliamentary Affairs, Management Services, and the Right to Information Act. So he has a wide variety of knowledge of all the projects which DRDO is running to this long tenure. And with this, he superannuated in July 2024. And after a 6-month break, now he is conferred a honorary fellow in the International Institute of Project Management in 2024. And now he is undertaking a study in collaboration with NIAS Bangalore for project impact assessment of DRDO. Apart from that, he is also a native of Kalinga and he very well connects to the Kalinga culture. So we thought it was appropriate to have him as a chief guest. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's also my pleasure and privilege to introduce Dr. Professor S.C. Misra to this forum. He requires no introduction, but still I'll just quickly touch upon a very brief biodata, Naval Architecture from IIT Kharagpur in '70, and PhD from University of Newcastle upon Tyne in 1976. After a brief stint in Hindustan Shipyard, he joined IIT Kharagpur as a faculty and retired in 2013. From 2009 to 13, he was the first director of Indian Maritime University of Visakhapatnam campus. After retirement, he is the visiting faculty at IMU and of Hindustan Institute of Maritime Technology, Chennai. He has served as the chairman of Naval Research Board DRDO from 2016 to 21 and is currently a member of the Board of Governors of National Institute of Ocean Technology, Chennai. He has been a member of the Technical Committee of Indian Institute of Shipping, a member of the Technical Committee of Class Enki, and associated with design and construction of coastal vessels for NIOT, passenger vessel on-demand design of feeder container vessel, marine engineering laboratories in Indian marine colleges. And he has written 2 books. One is a very technical book Design Principles of Ships and Marine Structures, which is going to the second edition print. And the second book, The Glorious Water Transport Heritage of Kalinga, Ancient to Recent Times. He has obtained the Distinguished Alumnus Award 2021 of IIT Kharagpur and has been conferred the Eminent Engineer Award in Marine Engineering Division of Institute of Engineers in December 2022. In March 2024, he has been awarded a thank you citation for the all-round contribution in naval architecture by Institution of Naval Architects, Mumbai, INA Mumbai, and he is the founder president of the Technical Society Forum for River and Ocean Scientists and Technologists. It's a very, very brief introduction of Professor Misra. So now I would request Professor Misra to commence his talks.
Good evening. First of all, let me thank Dr. Kurula, Dr. Iyengar, Mr. Amir Ahmad, and the INA team in general to invite me to give a talk on a topic which is of my interest. Thank you. I am also privileged to have Dr. Bates as the chairman of this session. But before I start, I would like to give my greetings to all of you on the auspicious occasion of Car Festival, Rath Yatra, which is a major festival of, should I say Kalinga or Odisha? Either way, it's a auspicious occasion and my greetings to all of you. Further, 25th of this month was the Seafarers' Day, and this is just 2 days after that. My greetings to all seafarers present and past. That includes the seafarers about whom I am going to talk today. With this, can I share my screen?
Please, sir.
Okay, so you go to the. Why talk on such a topic to INA? That I thought, though Mr. Dr. Iyengar has already mentioned it, I thought I'll write down the reasons why this talk should be interest to naval architects.
So just a request, can you just put it in slideshow mode, sir? I'm just seeing the side panel also.
Slideshow mode?
Yes, sir. You can just put it in full slideshow, sir. I'm seeing the side panel.
Slide control is there.
Yes, sir. You can just put view and put it as slideshow, sir. That's all.
It says participants only see slide controls when you are in presentation mode.
Yeah, just put it in presentation mode, sir, because I'm seeing the side panel also. It's not in full screen, sir. The slide is not in full screen.
Oh, okay. Full screen I can do from here.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Now it's okay.
Can you see it now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now it's okay, sir.
Okay. So, the importance of such a topic to INA. First of all, authentic knowledge of heritage and culture makes a people proud. That no denying of that. Maritime transportation brings wealth and prosperity. This is also very well known. Maritime transportation could be sustainable in spite of political upheavals and river morphology changes. We will see these two things during my talk, how much of political upheavals have been there in the society and how rivers have changed their morphology over the years. But marine transportation goes on. Proper utilization of natural resources, particularly wind and current in marine transportation, which we are going back to nature from present day and thinking how to utilize natural resources. Maritime transportation can be properly integrated with river transportation in spite of changes in depth, which again is we are learning from the earlier days. If people could build wooden boats more than 2000 years ago, why our wooden boat building industry is languishing today? This is something of a concern and we have to address this. Introducing, there are three things I'm going to talk about. Transportation in rivers, connecting hinterland to littoral areas so that trade could take place across oceanic transport, connecting Kalinga to distant source, and river sea connection. How are the rivers connected to sea through ports? So we'll be talking about ports. So if we look at our past, it would seem glorious. We'll see that, but present is dismal, and the reasons for dismal situation we'll not discuss in this seminar. And when we talk of heritage, it takes a very long period. So I have divided into four sections. One is Puranic times. Puranic times, which gives an idea whether water transport across the oceans was there in very old times. Then ancient period, starting from about 500 BC to 7th century AD. Then medieval period, up to fall of Mukundadev in the 17th century. No, not 17th century. How do we close this? Is it okay? And modern period, that is Mughal and British period up to independence. These are the four divisions I have made. I'll not be talking about modern period much. I'll skip this, and the other three periods I'll cover. Now, talking about Puranic era, about 3000 BCE, if we say Rig Veda could be timed to 3000 BCE, it mentions about Varuna and Vasistha going on a well-fitted out ship, and Rishi King Tugra's son Bhuju was fighting at sea, and his ship was wrecked. He and his men were rescued by Ashwin brothers. This is written in Rig Veda. I'm just quoting the Puranic things. Ramayana mentions that Sugriva instructed his Banasena to search for Sita in islands of Hosakarsa, Yavadvipa, Suvarnadvipa, and Sri Lanka. So how did these monkeys go to various places? Obviously, they took help of water transport. So this is a deduction. And these two, Mahabharata and Buddhist Jataks that is written here, do not really refer to water transport, so I'll skip them. Indus Valley civilization, which is dated to 3000 to 4000 years before present, in painting shows multi-oared ships dated to 2800 BCE, and remains of a dry dock have been located at Lothal. I'll be later showing a picture of that. Tamil literature mentions trading with Southeast Asia before 300 BC, 300 years before Christ. Kaviripatnam, Kaviripattinam, Puhar or Pumpuhar was a port city in the early Chola period. You see, this Tamil literature has one early Chola period which is before Christ, and one later Chola period which is after 11th century. So here we are talking about the early Chola period, which mentions about the port city of Pumpuhar in 4th century BC. The archaeological evidence of that include a brick wharf. Similar literature exists indicating trading so far to far-off countries in Kerala, Gujarat, and Maharashtra. Entire Indian coast was involved in maritime trade long before 3,000 years. Can be surmised that Kalinga's transport and trading was a part of this transportation in those years. So far, it is from the Puranic statements, it is only surmised. There is no evidence of that. In fact, there is no evidence of, except the Indus Valley and Tamil literature, there is no evidence of anything else. Why water transport? Why did people take to water transport? Why we talk of water transport today? I think the reasons are common in Puranic times, in ancient times, as of today. Water transport gives support to trade and commerce, and happens to be the cheapest mode of transport, of course. Safest and fastest mode of movement. When you're talking of Puranic era or ancient times, road transport was extremely dangerous. You could not move goods over long distances because you had to move through jungles infested with animals and dacoits. So safest and fastest mode of movement was through water. The other reason was spread of religion and culture. This is a very interesting scenario which I observed after I got interested in the topic of water transport in ancient times. You see, initially, that is before Lord Buddha or up to the Christian era, the prevailing religion in the Southeast Asian countries was primarily Hinduism, where Hindu kings had traveled to Southeast Asian countries, Southeast Asian countries, and spread the religion in this thing. But after the Buddha came and after Ashoka took over spreading religion in the Indian subcontinent and Sri Lanka, slowly Buddhist religion passed on to Burma, Southeast Asia, and Indonesia, where it became the prevailing religion. Then, after the 8th century or 9th century, again the Hindu religion found its way back to the Southeast Asian countries. So, if you look at the culture of Indian subcontinent, Sri Lankan subcontinent, Southeast Asian countries, and Indonesian islands, it's a mixture of Hindu and Buddhist culture, which is very prevalent in all their arts, culture, and drama, music, etc. Even though the countries have been converted to Muslim kingdoms. And then the other thing that supported water, that was done for water transport was mass migration. Sometimes we'll see one or two cases. Sometimes when the one king conquered another kingdom, that king which lost, along with his retinue, migrated to different area and set up a kingdom there. This mass migration occurred across the seas into other continents. This is very surprising, but this has happened. So if you look at the maritime coastal regions, we have on the western coast the Saurashtra or Gujarat coast, the Konkan coast, the Malabar coast, and on the eastern side we have the Coromandel coast and Kalinga coast. Maritime trade to Arab and Middle East countries as well as to Southeast Asia and China existed from very ancient times. Lothal has the archaeological remains of a dry dock of around 3000 BC or something like that. Not 3000 BC, it can't be 3000, it will be about 1000 BC, authenticating engineering excellence in those times. So this is the Lothal dry dock. You can see the brickwork which shows the dry dock. This is very interesting. When we talk of Kalinga, which area are we talking about? Today, when we refer to Kalinga, it means from Ganga to Godavari, from Rupnarayan River in north to Visakhapatnam in the south. That means it includes the western part of West Bengal and northern part of Andhra Pradesh. The entire region was known as Kalinga. Before Ashoka's time, this total area was divided into different regions under the names of Udra or Odra, Utkal, Kalinga, and Kosha. These names kept changing. These regions are not clearly demarcated, not described. We are reading from history that certain area was called a certain name at a certain period of time. But what was the demarcation of that area and how long did it stay as that area, we don't know. So broadly, only we can say this entire area was divided into various regions, Udra, Utkal, Kalinga, or Kosal. Kings went to war, annexed it on winning, and so the king's kingdom increased, and when they lost, the kingdom was lost to another kingdom. Thus, the boundaries kept shifting. I have tried to give you a broad idea of which areas were called what. You can see the Udra area was the northern Orissa, and Kalinga was the southern Orissa and northern Andhra Pradesh area. And that area was sometimes also called Kongod. The central area was called Utkal. And sometime when the kings annexed this Kongod, Kalinga, and Utkal, this entire area was called Trikalinga. And on the northern side, northwestern side of Orissa was the south coastal side. So this was roughly the areas which were named in history. And Chilka Lake, of course, is there. Before we go further, we have to understand the basics of the river system that helped create ports and marine activity. In Orissa, there are northern tract rivers, Subarnarekha and Buravalam, central tract rivers forming a very big river basin consisting of the rivers Baitarani, Brahmani, and Mahanadi river systems. Then you have southern river tracts where Rusikulya, Bahura, Kolab, Nagavali, Indravati, and Vamsadhara. Vamsadhara is a very famous river in the ancient times. We'll look at it again a little later. Then there have been some standalone rivers. And the funny part is the largest river delta, which was the Mahanadi Delta, it kept shifting. It was initially about 5,000-6,000 years ago. It was the north central area of the state, Mahanadi Delta. But over years, it has shifted more to the southern side. And today, the delta is more towards southern Orissa, with most of the river waters being discharged into the Chilika Lake through the branch rivers of Daya and Bhargavi. Rivers have silted, vanished, new streams have been created, and the connection to the sea has shifted, silted, ridges have been formed due to wave action, and similarly, ports have been generated and vanished. There is only one diagram I am showing here. You can see here the dark lines indicate the present river system. You can see the Mahanadi river written here. I think. This is here Mahanadi. This whole system is the Mahanadi river system. And this is Karjodi. This is Karjodi, and this is Kuakai, which divides into Kusabhadra, and down the river, it divides into two rivers, Daya and Bhargavi. Daya, you can see, goes to Chilika, and Bhargavi also goes to Chilika. Actually, it meanders a little bit and then ultimately goes to Chilka Lake. So through these two river systems from here, most of the waters get discharged into Chilka Lake. But more interestingly, you will find these dotted lines, which are the paleo rivers, which have been thought of as paleo rivers. Their exact geography is not known. We are interested here in two particular river systems. One is this river called Prachi. Can it be observed? Prachi River?
So we are able to see your pointers.
Okay. This river originates from this place, which is called Naraj. It was an ancient river, which is about 6,000 years back it formed, and it continued to carry most of the Mahanadi river waters. That time Karjodi was not there. This was the main river system. And then came Karjodi about 2,000 to 700 to 2,000 years back. And this river slowly silted and dried with a small rivulet staying, which only fills up during the rainy season to discharge water into the sea. This entire river has been silted. There is no river here. Similarly, there is a river called Ratnachira here. You can see that same story. But this is the most important river, and we will be looking at Bhargavi river a little bit later on. And then when you talk of Odisha or Kalinga transport system, we cannot avoid a word called Sadhavas. The mariners were called Sadhavas. Or who were called Sadhavas? Were the mariners called Sadhavas? Were the mariners who sailed the ships? Were the traders? Were the mariners did the trading themselves? Perhaps Sadhavas were those who went on ships in any capacity. That is, we have Majis, Mangaraj, Boitalas, Mahanayaks, and most importantly, astrologers. You'll be surprised to know that every ship that went out to sea had one astrologer, definitely, who had some knowledge of astronomy, who could predict the route that a mariner, a ship operator has to take, and which route not only leads to a destination but also safe for transportation. You'd also appreciate that since we are talking a bit about safety, these mariners tried to ply their boats mostly along the shore. So in the event of a disaster, they could always come back to the shore. Only when necessary, they used to go out to open sea. Okay. Then coming back to ancient times again, 322 BCE, Chandragupta Maurya, Emperor of Magadha, could not annex Kalinga. Why am I saying this? He could not annex Kalinga because Kalinga was a major marine power at that time, and Magadha did not have a seafront, though they used to do a lot of trading through the water mass. If you look at this third bullet, Mauryans had a state monopoly over shipbuilding and shipping. That is, Mauryan kingdom, the administration, had a monopoly over shipbuilding and shipping in Magadha. And how it administered is mentioned in Chanakya's Arthashastra. I was surprised to know that the Arthashastra actually covered the shipbuilding and shipping practices of that time, including how much payment is to be made to people who operated ports at that time. This is also mentioned by the Greek ambassador Megasthenes, and he mentioned about Pataliputra, and in his book Indica, a treatise on Indian shipbuilding is there. Megasthenes also mentioned that the empire of Kalinga had 60,000 soldiers, 1,000 horsemen, 700 elephants, also a major naval force. And perhaps Kalinga extended from southern end of Bansadhara or Godavari river basin up to the southern end of Magad, a huge area. And entire coastline was occupied by the Kalinga kingdom. That's the reason why Chandragupta Maurya tried to conquer Kalinga, to have access to the sea, but had to lose. And next, of course, as we all know, Kalinga was fought by Ashoka. Kalinga war was fought by Ashoka in 273 to 232 BC. And it was fought near the Daya river. Maybe he could not progress down south, so the fight was near the Daya river. Today, that Dhauli Stupa stands as testimony to that. Kalinga lost and came under Magadha Empire. Ashoka changed from Chandrasoka to Dharmashoka and embraced Buddhism, which advocated at that time non-violence. Ashoka sent a number of Buddhist monks, his son Mahindra and daughter Sanghamitra, from Pataliputra to the seaport of Tamralipti. From Pataliputra, they came by road to Tamralipti or river, we don't know that. Presently Tamluk in West Bengal, and from there to Sri Lanka by sea to spread Buddhism there. So this is the ancient time record. It is recorded that Ashoka sent two of his son and daughter to Sri Lanka by sea along the coast from Tamralipti to Sri Lanka. Needless to say, this means that the route by sea was known by that time. Therefore, perhaps Buddhism had gone to Sri Lanka, but it had not spread. So these two people went to spread Buddhism there. Tamilputta was then a port of Kalinga. The capital of Kalinga was Dantapura, presently in northern Andhra Pradesh, and a good connectivity with Tamilnadu both by land and sea, with Sri Lanka, Burma, and Far East by sea. After Ashoka, Kalinga became independent again. Followed from Ashoka, Kharavela of Cheti or Chaitra dynasty, also known as Mahameghavana, ascended the Kalinga throne in 2nd century BC. And he promulgated Jainism as state religion. The golden era, this is known as the golden era of Kalinga. He annexed Magadha and defeated the Tamil dynasty in the south. The power and glory is a surmise. The power and glory could not have been achieved without very strong maritime trade and naval power. Maritime activity from Kalingan source continued subsequently. Then we have the records of two great historians of the initial Christian era period. One is Senior Pliny, who wrote Encyclopedia Nautilus Historica, or Natural History of the early Christian era, and the Greek mathematician Ptolemy, who was in Alexandria and then a province of Roman Empire, a little later, maybe 100 years later. And he also wrote books on his subject. And they both mention a tribe called Kalinga, which is written here, Kalinga. And perhaps this refers to the people from Kalinga. Then port towns of Dantapura or Dantaguda, approximately 625 south of the Ganges, is mentioned as Dantapura, Dantakara, etc. And also the Kalingapatnam port, the Pullura or present Pullur port near Chilika. All these ports have been mentioned by these great historians, Ptolemy and Pliny. So there is ample evidence to say that there was these ports in the southern side of Orissa and northern side of Andhra Pradesh, doing trade with not only hinterland but also oceanic trade across the seas. There are many ports on the seafront. Marine trade flourished. Dynasties from South India, Satavahana and later Ikshyaku dynasty ruled Kalinga or Utkal region. Tosali was the capital later. Tosali was the present-day Dhauli, and sea trade was prominent during that period. Then there is a nice story about, we all know about the dental remains of Lord Buddha. King Brahmadatta, I'll just read this out. This is a big story and I don't want to spend time on this, but main features. King Brahmadatta of Kalinga got as present the left canine relic tooth from Therakhema, a disciple of Buddha, and he deposited it in a stupa in his capital, Dantapura. In Dantapura, just after the death of Buddha, if you want to know after death of Buddha, his bone remains and dental remains were collected by his disciples. One of his disciples, Therakhema, collected the left canine tooth of Lord Buddha and presented it to King Brahmadatta of Kalinga. King Brahmadatta was the king of Kalinga with capital at Dantapura. So in Dantapura, King Brahmadatta erected a stupa and deposited the relic, and people used to come and pray there. But this went on for about 700 years or so. In around 4th century CE, there was a lot of trouble around this area, and some Hindu king wanted to destroy the truth relic of Buddha, since Buddhism was becoming popular. So King Guhaseva decided to send this truth relic to Anuradhapura of Sri Lanka. At that time, Sri Lanka was in contact with Kalinga kingdom for the truth relic. So the king of Kalinga sent it for safekeeping to Dantapura with his daughter Hemalata and his son-in-law Dantakumar. So both of them took the relic, and through a lot of trouble, they went by sea and arrived at Anuradhapura of Sri Lanka, where the then king installed it in a major stupa. Later on, another king of Sri Lanka transferred it to his new kingdom at Kandy, and where it stays now. As you all know, Kandy houses the truth relic of Lord Buddha, which is revered by all Buddhists in the world. This is one story which says the importance of marine transport in religious movement. It was not only trade and commerce, but religious movement was one of the prime reasons for maritime transportation. Now look at this other story. I have only depicted here two stories. A Brahmin seller named Kaundinya from Mahendragiri region of Orissa, or Kalinga. It is perhaps somewhere in South Orissa. I don't know exactly where Mahendragiri is. He sailed the seas and was attacked by pirates led by a local Naga princess Soma. Now Soma fell in love with him during the war and married him. Kaundinya was a worshipper of Lord Shiva, and he established, Kaundinya and Soma established the famous Funan dynasty of Kambuja, or present-day Cambodia. This Funan dynasty ruled for 600-700 years. So this was perhaps the first major Hindu movement of religious movement to Southeast Asia. And their Hindu kingdom was established, and in the 6th or 7th century, the famous Angkor Wat temple was erected, which was initially a Vishnu temple. But later on, as Buddhism spread, this became a Buddhist temple, and today it is a World Heritage Site as a Buddhist temple. So this also tells you about maritime trade, maritime transportation, and naval wars at sea, way back in 1st century CE. Then 440 to, how much time I have spent? 5 days. How long do I have?
So you got time, sir. You got another 20 minutes.
Okay. 440 to 485 CE, Kalinga spread between river Godavari to some river, I can't see this, to Rusikulya. The region between Mahanadi and Rusikulya was known as Kangot or Kanauj and ruled by kings of Saradbhava dynasty between 350 to 660 CE. Now this dynasty ruled for more than 300 years in the Kalinga region. In the middle of 7th century, this dynasty was removed by King Harshavardhana. And what happened to this king and his retinue? This king and entire retinue, along with the king, moved by sea to Maladwipa, or present-day Malaysia, to establish an overseas kingdom there. And from there, the Saradbhava dynasty spread the kingdom to Indonesia, Java, and Sumatra. So the Saradbhava dynasty's kings ruled in Java and Sumatra from that time till they were losing again after about 300 years. So now a little bit about Kalidasa. Where else do we get the mention of marine trade? the famous poet Kalidasa, he mentions in his epic creation Raghuvansa, he mentioned about the Kalinga king Hemangada, who was called Kalinganatha, and Mahodadhipati. This word is important, Mahodadhipati. He was called the Lord of the Oceans. He also mentions that the king had his palace on seafront, automatically protecting the palace from one side. So this says that Kalinga was the ruler of the seas at that time. Around the same time, Fahian, the Chinese traveler, traveled to India by land to study Buddhism, and he went to Lumbini and then Pataliputra and Tamralipti. From the port of Tamralipti, he went to Sri Lanka by sea. Again, the sea transport comes in about 300, in about 4th century, 4th to 5th century, between that. He stayed 2 years in Sri Lanka, and then he went by sea to the island of Java. Stayed there for 6 months and back to China. So this indicates back to China by sea. So this indicates a continuous trading route or a maritime route from Tamralipti or Kalinga coast to Java, from Ceylon, Ceylon to Java, Java to China. It is stated that he sailed in a ship which carried 200 persons, and a small boat was tied to the big ship on his journey in the sea. Now, this is very interesting. I was wondering why a small boat was carried. Was it for safety? Was it a kind of a lifeboat? The reason is no. It's a small boat which is used to trade from the seaport to the rivers, somewhat inside, to carry the traded items inside and carry back the items to be imported. Around 7th century, 627 to 630 CE, when Sang traveled to India, he mentions about the Udra Desa with a present location of Jaspur as the capital and port of Chelitalho. Now this Chelitalo, this port has not been identified yet. There is a lot of controversy. We will not go into that. And then he went to Kongod, capital port at Palur. Capital was port of Palur on the bank of Rusikulya. He traveled to Kalinga with capital at Kalinganagar on the banks of Bansudhara. Wensang mentions existence of a number of seaports such as Kalinganagar, Palur, Ganjam, Chelitalo, etc. Here traders bartered items against cowries and second half of 8th century, there is an exchange of ambassadors between King of Kalinga and China. This is interesting, but this must have been done, and how it was done, we don't know. It could have been done on land or on sea. But that led to my coming of large number of Chinese students to Kalinga for studying Buddhism. The excavations of Udayagiri, Ratnagiri, Lalitgiri, and Puspagiri stand mute testimony to this claim. Thus, there are ample evidence there was trade across seas from Kalinga, Udra region to Sri Lanka, Suvarnabhumi, Suvarnadvipa, and China on the eastern side. Export items were elephants. One of the major items that were exported from Kalinga was elephants. This is surprising, but true. We will see some diagrams on this. Ivory, gems such as diamonds. Diamonds was one of the exported items from Odisha. Silver, filigree works, and clothes. Imports were mainly pottery works. Research is required to clearly establish whether there was a direct trade with Romans at the beginning of Common Era or before. Now, these are the routes that was followed from the Kalinga region. I have marked the routes. Here on the eastern side, you come to Sri Lanka's west coast. From there, one could go to the southern side of Java and Bali, or one could go from the eastern side through the Malacca state to the islands of Sumatra, Java, and Bali, and also to the Malaysian peninsula, going across the Malaysian peninsula to eastern coast of China. And if there was a trade on the western to the western side, then the trade routes to Arabia is shown here. But we don't have any foolproof evidence of that. So these were the ports: Tamrilipti, present Tamluk in West Bengal; Chelitalo, we don't know where it is. It could be somewhere between Puri and Chilka; Manikpatna, northern side of Chilka Lake; Palur, on the southern tip of Chilka Lake; then Ganjam, Dantapura, Dantakara, Dantagura or Dantagula, which is perhaps the present day Dantavharapukora on the bank of Vansadhara; and Kalingapatnam, Karnagar, Karthikeya, Muktalingam, near mouth of river Vansadhara. So you see, Vansadhara was a very famous river for maritime trade. So these I have marked them on the eastern coast. They are the ports starting from here, which is Manikpatna down to Itukonda on the northern Andhra side. So all the ports are on the southern side except one port, Tamrilipti, here on the northern side. The ancient ports were all on the southern side of the Kalinga region. Ancient names of Southeast Asian countries: Arakan is northeastern Myanmar, Maladweep is Malaysia, Siam is Thailand, Kambuja, Kampuchea or Cambodia, Champa is Vietnam, Yavadweep, island of Java, Karpuradweep, Borneo, Suvarnadweep, Indonesian islands, Suvarnabhumi, countries in the Malaysian peninsula. These names were used in the maritime trade in earlier days. So points to note: ports were on the estuaries on a river near the mouth. All the ports reported here were the Kalingan region encompassing southern Orissa and north Andhra Pradesh. There was a thriving port at Tamrilipti in the northern part in the present state of West Bengal. There were no ports on the mouths of Mahanadi, Brahmani, Baitarani, Budabalang and Subarnarekha. This is interesting to note. These rivers did not harbor any ports. Then maritime trade from the coast of Kalinga meant prosperity of this region, mostly inhabited by Adivasis in today's parlance. This is very interesting to me. This area, the southern area of Orissa, northern area of Andhra Pradesh, is today inhabited by Adivasis, and it is strange that this region is most underdeveloped today. At one time, about 3,000 years back, this was one of the most developed regions, and today it is most underdeveloped region. It's very strange. So how did the vessels move? There was no mechanical means of propulsion or steering. Used oars and sails, utilizing wind power and ocean current, navigated using sun, moon, and pole star. Sailors moved near the coast and moved to deep ocean only when necessary. Speed of the vessel was between 10 to 11 kilometers per hour, or about 6 knots on an average. 1 week from Tamrilipti or Palur to southwest of Sri Lankan ports, or to northeastern side, say Chittagong or southeast of western Myanmar. From there to Malaysian peninsula and via Malacca Strait to island of Java or Bali in 3 weeks' time. From Java to China, about a month. So from Kalinga coast to China, it would take about 2 months' time. To go to the western side, vessel would have to move west after encircling Sri Lanka, and it would have taken more than a month to reach Arabia. So now, how did they move? So I have taken down just briefly the current and wind pattern. These two are current patterns, these two are wind patterns. As per our Oriya tradition, we use Akamabai, 4 letters for trading, for vessel movement. Akama refers to Aswin, Kartik, and Vaisak. Assam, Akama, Aswin, Kartik, and Magh, which is in English calendar, it is October, November, and December. And Bai is Baisak, which is April and May. So if you look at the November, Maybe you can see it in your this thing. This diagram is for November and this is for April. And on the other hand, this wind pattern diagram, this side is November and this side is April. So you can see here in November, December, January, there is a return monsoon wind, a monsoon current, which goes this way, and the wind pattern is this side. You can see this, sorry, this side here. This matches with this. Sorry about this orientation being a little different. So you have starting of the trade using this current and using this wind pattern to the southeast. And to the west, if you go down South Ceylon, you have a western current going this way. Similarly, in the month of April, there is a reverse current. Before start of monsoon, there is a reverse current. So people would normally try to return by this current. So the Akama, these 3 months are meant for starting of the voyage, and Bai is the month in which the voyages used to come back before the monsoon ravages of the sea take place. What happened?
Please continue, sir. Please continue, sir.
It is not moving. Why the screen is not moving?
You can just try one more time, sir. Probably.
Now it is moving. Okay, this all I have explained, so I'll skip this slide. Now we come to medieval period. Now medieval period, at the beginning of the medieval period, there was a major construction in Orissa. 2 big temples were constructed, Temple of Lord Jagannath and Sun Temple Konark. You will be surprised to know that Konark Temple originally was taller than Jagannath Temple. Jagannath Temple is 65.43 meters high or 214 feet 8 inches, but Sun Temple was 228 feet high, 69.5 meter high. Only Muksala exists today. Each temple must have required stones of the order of 120,000 tons. With about 25% wastage, total stones that must have been carried to either temple site would have been 150,000 tons. Just imagine, 150,000 tons, and there is no hills near Puri or near Konark. How were these stones carried? Obviously, they couldn't have been carried by land. They were carried by water. This gives us a very big support of water transport for construction of these temples. This is one more thing I must mention. At that time, the Jagannath temple was covered with lime plaster. So it was white. And the Konark temple was like this, dark. So the British used to use the white temple as white pagoda and the Konark temple as black pagoda as navigational indicators. White pagoda and black pagoda. And then later this lime plaster was removed, and this is the present temple. So if you look at the hills around this place from where stones might have come, this is one of the major places, Kerandimala, or it could have been by that is this set of river, Tarangamala, or up north Nilagiri hills. So any of these hills is between 50 to 100 kilometers or more away from the sites of Puri and Konark. And there are no rivers near here. So where the stones transported by river, came to sea, and came from sea to the temple site? Or there were rivers which have been silted over the years? This is a question I have asked and I have inquired. And now people say that the stones came from here through the Daya river upstream to the Bhargavi river, like this. And there was a small stream here which used to bring stones to Puri. Similarly, Konark temple also, from Daya river, it used to go upstream through this Chandrabhaga river to Konark temple. Now, these rivers, this Chandrabhaga river and Bhargavi river I have just mentioned. I am not going to go into detail of how the Bhargavi river was connected to the sea temple. It will take some time. So we'll avoid that. We'll only know that there is a river called Malini, which used to come near the Gundicha temple today from Bhargavi river as a branch, and the stones could have come from there. At that time, that is in the 13th century or 14th century, the car festival was in two stages. One used to go to the one set of cars used to go to the Malini river, and the other set of cars used to take from Malini river to the Gundicha temple. The then Queen Sharda Devi decided that this river is causing a lot of problems, so it must be silted. So she covered it with sand, and that river died. And now we have a straight road from Gundicha temple to the Lord Jagannath temple, or vice versa. That is a true story. It is historically recorded, and therefore the temple site near Gundicha temple is called Sarada Bali. Bali means sand. Sarada means the queen who covered the river with sand. Similarly, near the Konark temple, some work has been done by one geology professor and his student from IIT Kharagpur, and I'll show you that. They have done some satellite survey to find out underwater river sources. And from this river called Kadwa river, which is still existing, there is a stream going like this, which they have found. It was there, it has been silted. It is possible that here, where the Konark temple is, there was a water mass which has been silted. This entire thing has been silted. Temple is 3 kilometers away from the seashore. So this theory I accept, that there were rivers through which the stones were carried. Now, interestingly, when you carry stones of this magnitude through these rivers, it cannot be done arbitrarily. There must have been a proper management for this. So management of river transport of stones was controlled by the king, financed by the king, and done through this set of works. Identification of hills for type and required quantity of stones, employment of contractors to quarry stones and carry to a temple site, employment of stone workers and laborers and logistics, cutting and polishing of stones at the site, carriage to water body and loading onto the floating craft, employment of boat crew, boat operation, shifting from boat to larger, smaller boat as required by waterway, finally moving the stones to the site, set of artisans for boat construction and repair, financial arrangement, active support of riverside inhabitants. Here, this item, shifting of boats from larger to smaller boats. You see, all the rivers are not of the same width or same depth. So it was required frequently to move from one boat to a different boat as the stones were carried along the river. There is some writing on this, but authentic writing is not there. It is from mouth to mouth writing from the 16th century onwards. Some writing is there, but before that, what happened is through stories. So this is very interesting. This gives us a very good background to actual active river transport in olden days. Then I had mentioned to you about Prachi river. In earlier years, the river Prachi was perhaps the main distributary of the Mahanadi river system. The river had a good flow, good river current, and was also deep. Carbon 14 dating at the origin of the Prachi river has indicated that it originated about 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. Prachi has subsequently dried up at its origin and remains as a small stream near Kakotpur, discharging to sea near Astaran at Kyotganga. Devi, Kusabhadra, Daya, Bhargavi rivers have originated much later. You can see this 6,000 to 2,300. Kadwa river is of recent origin, 750 years ago. An advanced civilization flourished on the banks of Prachi River, particularly between 7th and 16th century. Large number of temples were built on the banks representing Vaishnavites, Shaivites, and Sakta cults of Hindu faith. Buddhist and Jain monuments were also erected in a later period. There were also Islamic mosques. So this is a combination of all religions along this Prachi River. The famous Ma Mangala temple stands on its banks near Kakatpur. A number of monuments include brickworks, stoneworks, mats, stepped wells, tirthas, ghats, forts, and sand dunes, indicating a large maritime activity. Added to that is this Kenduli Sasan on its banks has been identified as the birthplace of the Sanskrit lyricist Jayadev, famous for his composition of Gita Govinda. This village appears to have been a center for Hindu literature during the 10th and 11th century. This is now a pilgrimage site. Then there are two books, Kapila Samhita, written in Sanskrit in the 10th century, and Prachi Mahatmya, written also in Sanskrit in the 18th century, mention profusely about Prachi civilization. Also, Odia Mahabharata of Saral Das mentions extensively about Prachi value. So a lot of trade took place through this river to hinterland and into the sea. Ports, Dantapura and Pitunda, other ports in south and Tamilipti in the northeast, had ceased to exist. Kalingapatnam remained a port trading in rice up to 8th century CE and perhaps up to 15th century, slowly dying. Pallur and Manikpatna remained same fate as Kalingapatnam. Puri and Konark were trading ports during this period. Ships used to sail up to Malaysian Peninsula and Indonesian Peninsula and beyond for trading. Subsequently, Portuguese traders and later French, British traders invaded existing ports on the Orissa coast and set up new ports to do their trading. On the left bank of Kushabhadra, about 25 kilometers east of Konark, in Puri district, a port came up in this period known as Kalkatapatnam. On right bank of the river, a sandbar came up which formed a natural protection to the port like a groin. There was a fort and a palace of King Langula Narasimhadev at the original township of Kalkatapatnam. Archaeological study shows existence of brick jetty floor indicating a loading platform. These are the medieval ports. You can see all the ports that were here have now moved to here, Middle Orissa. Southern ports have slowly vanished. It's become middle ports. Points to note, southern ports have vanished. Ports in central Orissa are these. Trade routes remained the same as before. Trading of elephants and diamonds slowly vanished. Trading was done with woodworks, ironworks, brassworks, gold and silver filigree work, and weaving of clothes. Salt was a major traded item. Internal trade continued with food grains, vegetables, oil, and fruits. Internal and oceanic trade continued and flourished in spite of wars and change of size of kingdoms. Then we come to modern period, which is a very difficult period to write down, but I have made 2-3 slides just to cover it. By the beginning of 16th century, Prachi had started silting and changing course. Ports in Puri district and Chilka region slowly reduced in importance. Ports Sirpur on the mouth of river Usikulla and Sornapur on the mouth of river Bahura were active, but these were under constant attack of Mughals and slowly lost their importance in later period. Oceanic trading started and grew along the coast northeast of Puri, that is towards the northern side. Rivers Mahanadi, Brahmani and Baitarani meet the sea with many branches at a number of points. So do rivers Budhabalanga and Suvarnareka and Gambhira. There is a river Gambhira which is pretty important. Ports started operating at these river mouths and river banks. A major shipbuilding center started operating at Cuttack, which later moved to Balasore. Cuttack remaining as a ship repair center. In fact, if you go to Cuttack Maritime Museum, you will find a lathe machine, which was the longest lathe machine, I think, till date for turning propeller shafts. Lifestyle of coastal people in the entire northern coast changed, being woven around ships and ocean trading. In modern period, it all shifted to northern side, and northern side people became totally embroiled in shipping and shipbuilding. Pipli on the bank of Subarnarekha was a major port, Harishpur on the banks of river Mahanadi and Hariharpur nearby, Balasore on the banks of Budaibalang and Chandbali on its mouth, Dhamra port on the mouth of river Dhamra, Kanika sands also the Kanika port, Churamani port on the mouth of Gamai river, Paradip at the mouth of river Mahanadi. Ports started at various river mouths. Ports vanished as quickly due to silting, change of river course, and most importantly, lack of trade and political reasons. Politics started playing a part in the later modern period in deciding whether ports should stay at one place or not. New ports started at new locations and river courses. I have shown the ports in the northern Odisha here, starting from Paradip here to Pipli on the Subarnarekha mouth here. Churamani, Chandipur is here, Balasore is here, Churamani is here. Chandbali is here, Dhamra, Harishpur is here, Butikola and Paradip. They are the modern ports. Ships used to go trading to Sri Lanka, Arakan, Malaysia, Kalimantan in the island of Borneo, to Siam, Cambodia, and to Champa to further north, crossing South China Sea to southeast coast of China. Ships also used to go to Sumatra, Java, and Bali. Export items were fine clothing such as tussar, matha, muslin, silk, and bafta. Expensive trading items such as copper, brass, bronzeware, and utensils. Large animals such as elephants. Sometimes elephants were carried even in this time. Common trading items such as rice, dal, spice, salt, saltpeter, occasional need-based items such as weapons to fight pirates and wood was also transported. The import to Kalinga ports included copper, tin, zinc from Malaya and ground powder, brassworks, kauri, jade and other semi-precious stonework, silk thread and clothes, China clay decorative works, utensils, tea, etc. from China. People used to travel in these ships to work in tin and copper mines and in weaving profession in Malaya. There was a lot of exchange of Buddhist scholars between Kalinga and China and Japan. As I have mentioned before, this continued to some period in modern times. Start of decline. Up to 16th century, foreign traders used to be from Far Eastern and Southeastern countries. Then came the Portuguese. Influence of Orissa kings reduced. War between Mughals and Marathas involving local inhabitants of Orissa in the interiors of this region started. There was trouble in the seafront. Fighting continued with Portuguese and later with British, French, and Dutch traders. Slowly, Portuguese departed, but British, French, and Dutch traders stayed on. And finally, only British ruled. This is an interesting slide I have shown you here. Look at these two photographs of Portuguese notes. One is a single rupee note and one is 10 rupee note. Both of these have the Jagannath temple in its currency note. So it shows how much Portuguese were influential in trading along the Orissa coast. Okay, this slide I can slip. This is actually the decline. It slowly moved from Balasore to Calcutta, Calcutta to Bombay, and the eastern side collapsed. Yeah, here Vyasakavi Fakir Mohan Senapati, who is one of the greatest writers of Orissa, he mentions that nearly 500 to 600 ships were moving in the seas from the Kalinga coast. This is 19th century. Nearly 3/4 of these ships carried salt to Ganges by sea and from there to other parts of the country, particularly rural Bengal. Other vessels used to go to distant lands. Ships moved with sails Each vessel required 6 to 12 sails of different sizes and shapes. Rectangular, triangular, quadrilateral with unequal sides. Names of some typical sails were Karaju, Sabara, Tavara, Kalami, Jivi, Daria, and Pela. If sails were too big, vessels could overturn during strong wind. If sails did not provide adequate area in the right direction, the motive power is not enough to move the vessel as desired speed. Manufacturing of sails as well as sail operation had to be done by skilled workers. Slowly, steamships appeared and skill in making and operating sails also vanished. Propellers and welded ships appeared. People trained in new skills moved to Calcutta and later to Bombay. Local shipping and shipbuilding collapsed. Boats and ships. Borobudur boat sculpture is one of the best examples of the boats of the 6th, 7th century. Boat sculptures in Odisha temple girths. This would come to 10th and 12th to 13th century. Then boat paintings little later. Literary documents, I have found only 2 literary documents. One is a book called Paika Keda, which was written by Kanhai Champat Rai in 16th century and reproduced by Sadasiv Rath Sharma and later by Krupa Sindhu Biswal, which I have referred to in my book. This is the Borobudur boat. You see, this is a wooden boat, but so well designed with sails, with anchor, and what have you. This is the 8th century boat. This is in Java, but this is a boat which carried Kalinga traders to Java. Now, these are some of the photographs in temple girths. You can see here elephants on the boats. Can you see that? Here also. And you can see the prow. This is the one that is rising up. Here also it is rising up. Here also, this is in British Museum. This is also rising up. This is an interesting picture in Jagannath temple. This animal here is a giraffe. It is presumed that it is a presentation of a giraffe to the king who is sitting here from some traders from eastern side, western side. We have only one diagram supporting this. There is no other diagram. Then these are the paintings. You can see the royalty being housed in decorative structure on boats. This is from Paika Kheda. These are the types of boats that were built at that time, taken from that book directly. You can see this is a river boat, and these are wooden boats, some of them being used for fighting. Low height boats were the boats that required to be hidden during a fighting, where high-rise boats were meant for royalty. These dimensions in the diagrams do not represent actual size. Single figure dancing on a boat, very unlikely to have happened, perhaps depiction of gods in boats. Heavy animals like elephants on deck, unlikely since this is an unsafe practice. This boat, pictures we saw with elephants and boats, where are those? This is a very unlikely scenario. This is only done in sculptures because even those days people knew what is the safe practice. There must have been a lower hold in which these elephants were carried. Propulsion was by oars, lack of sails in all figures. If you look at all the figures that are depicted, there are no sails excepting Borobudur. What does it mean? Does it mean that sail was used as a natural thing and it has nothing special to paint about? Maybe. Passengers included royalty, crew, and common passengers. Top structure to suit needs, decorated structure for royalty, low height for naval operation. Pronounced and decorative prow. Presentation of giraffe to royalty. Did Kalinga trade with East Africa or Rome? We don't know that. Then, these are all wooden boats. Famously, this book called Yukti Kalpataru, it was written by Raja Bose of Dhar, which is in Madhya Pradesh presently, in the 11th century, giving description of shipbuilding at that time. I have wondered, I have found no answer to this, how a king in Madhya Pradesh, which is totally away from seashore, could write a total book on shipbuilding at that time. Anyway, this is taken as a standard classical literature on boat building, so I am reproducing it here. There are 5 types of wood. One was called the Brahmana class, light and soft wood, and can be joined with other wood. Kshatriya class, light and hard wood. Vaishya class, heavy and soft wood. Shudra class, hard and heavy wood. Mixed class or Dvijati boat is wood having properties of 2 wood classes. The properties of wood to be used for boat building can be stated as follows. Light wood, boat will be light, carry more load for the same draft or depth of immersion. Wood that would normally not crack or split due to impact loading, which frequently occurs at sea and during port operation. So such boats should be perhaps hardwood. Easily perishable wood due to immersion in water should not be used. Resistant to deterioration due to marine growth should also be there. So keeping all this in mind, perhaps wood selected for boat building at that time, ancient time and middle time, and also early part of modern times, was Anjali, Gamari, jackfruit, mango, teak, and sal. Sal, as we know, is a hardwood. Yukti Kalpataru has given dimensions of many different boats in units of Rajahasta. Now, this Rajahasta, the most famous book of on this Yukti Kalpataru is the book is the PhD thesis and later a book by R.K. Mukherjee, which many of you might have heard. He has used a Rajahasta as 16 hastas. 1 hasta is 1.5 feet. But later literature I looked at tells 1 Rajahasta is 10 hastas. So the dimensions given by R.K. Mukherjee is suspect it could be smaller than what he has given. But the various boats were called Samanya, which are river boats, or Vishesha Dirga, the sea-going tall boats. Vishesha Dirga is sea-going long boats. Vishesha Unnata, sea-going high vessels. Some boats have been designated lucky, some unlucky. Why, we don't know. I have not been able to find out. Prows are decorated with heads of the following symbols: lions, buffalo, serpent, elephant, tiger, duck, peahen, parrot, frog, or man. Based on superstructure construction, 3 types of vessels were designed, designated: Sarva Mandira, which is a complete superstructure along the length of the boat; Madhya Mandira, central superstructure; and Agra Mandira is front superstructure. Strangely, today we do aft superstructure. Those days there was no aft superstructure. It was either Agra Mandira or Madhya Mandira or Sarva Mandira. Bamboo floats or belas were used, and twin hull boats were called chappas. I'll show you a diagram. Very interesting. Boat cross section could be round bottom, V bottom, chine form, or flat bottom. 2 types of construction: clinker type, carvel type, joining of planks, stitching, or nails. Boat bottom could be bare or clad with copper sheets. Wood joints required to be caulked. Navigational equipments are magnetic compass, binoculars, maps, and palm leaf almanacs indicating position of sun and moon. Navigation flags, color indicating traders from which locality, yellow for Sadhavas, indicating original port of registry, red for Balasore, loading and unloading, white, and carrying passengers, blue. 4 types of crew were used: cooks, stewards, sailors, and astrologers. Paikakada mentions types of boats, war preparedness. This book is very nice. It gives war preparedness at sea, use of steam in using weapons, written in old-time Odia language. I could not understand completely. Book is available in Odisha State Maritime Museum. Atmacharita of Basakbhai Fakir Mohan, I have already mentioned, he has given a good description of boat construction and operation. So this is Vela, and this is Chapa. In Orissa, during Chandan Yatra, the lords are taken out on Chapo. Chapo means catamaran, two boats joined together. So this has been existing from very old times. So these are round bottom boats. This is clinker built, this is carvel built, and this is chine form. This is woven boats. You can see the hemp or jute ropes, strings which are used as ropes, and this is nails. You see, nail boat could be very old. You see, in the Konark temple, they have used iron girders which have not rusted over 1,000 years, which are not rusted over 1,000 years. So at that time, iron industry was pretty well developed by local people. And so it is not impossible that there were sailing boats and the nails did not rust at sea. This is a typical river boat from Fakir Mohan's description. You can see these are the bulkheads. And the bulkheads were only one girder here, central pillar with a girder on top and thatched roofs to the side. There's no support here. Okay, this is shown here. The thatched roof is shown here. Okay. Then I found out some palm leaf inscriptions, as I mentioned, Arnab Bihar, Ratnakar Bihar. I will not go deep into it. I have taken help of some Sanskrit professors and Sanskrit scholars and tried to understand these. As I mentioned, there are 15 or 16 of these leaves in each book, but the total book is missing. Total book would be up maybe 50, 60 pages. From that, I have tried to derive whatever information which is given in my book. I have no time to discuss this. It is presumed that boat building skills have been passed on through generations since old times by families. Skill training, help from traditional boat builders was sought through CDA, Chilika Development Authority. I got hold of some boat builders and I asked them to tell me about traditional boat building. It was amazing to see these skilled boat builders without any higher education could reproduce boat structural drawings in various cross sections in pen and paper. I was amazed. I don't know whether you will appreciate it. A fellow who has not perhaps gone to school or has gone to school, I don't know. He is a carpenter, he is building boats, and he produced this drawing. Just imagine this. This is the profile, this is the deck, this is the deck. Okay. Now these are from the palm leaf inscriptions. These boats, there are a number of drawings, but these are basically same type. And details I am not going into, it is given. Some details are available, I have given it. And then we decided to look at one of the Chilika trading boats, Chilika tourist boats. This boat was standing on land and we thought it was a round bottom boat. We took a lot of people and overturned the boat. And look what we found. We found it's a flat bottom boat, like this. And I must thank Mr. Avinash Gore for reproducing this drawing, which offsets of which was provided by us. And he reproduced these drawings as at IMU Vizag. And thank you. I don't know whether I have overturned the time, but that's all I have to say. Yes, I have overturned. Sorry. Sorry, Dr. Iyengar. I have overshot the time.
Thank you, sir. And it was a very interesting talk. Now, before the Q&A, I would request Mr. Bej, the chief guest of the day, to offer his comments and his appreciation of the topics. Mr. Bej and Mr. Bej, please.
Bej sir, you can, mic should be on. Bej sir.
Audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible,
Yes,
sir.
yes. But you
So
can switch on the video also, sir.
video is not coming. Some problem is there.
Yes.
Okay.
So thank you, Professor Misra, for an exhaustive presentation. It was an eye opener. I am from the state of Orissa, but I was not knowing much. Only maybe out of your presentation, I was knowing 1 or 1.5%, not even 2% what you presented. So even the current, I need not repeat many of the things I have to summarize. Anyhow, I have to repeat, but I don't think that is required after such a exhaustive presentation, detailed presentation from ancient, modern, and medieval to modern period, as well as the technical nature of the board presentations, whether it is flat bottom, round bottom, and all those technical details. But I must say you have done a lot of research into history of this boat making. It's a beyond imagination that such a exhaustive study you have done and linked with the tradition, maritime traditions. The present day also, during the month of November, that Boita Bandana, what you have mentioned, it is being happening in the coastal districts. And the literature, palm leaf literature, even my father has kept astrology things in palm leaf. He has managed to do that. So that was the method. Many of the important documents has been shared, and still it is preserved. Now we have been knowing from the history or from literature that the Buddhist culture or the Hindu culture has gone to Southeast Asian countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Java, Sumatra, Bali through uh, the trading route. People have also settled. Many of the temples are also of the Hindu culture. Recently, I came to know that some of the Mahabharata has been presented in Indonesia or Malaysia in an exhaustive manner. So there is a great link between the Kalinga Empire and the marine traditions of Kalinga for the previous generations, the boats, the ports which have been perished, all these you have nicely described, linking with the cultural practices, the trading, what they used to do, and even some of the ports which has been, some of the rivers has been silted, some of the ports has not been operational. Those details also you have mentioned. Even the construction of the two big temples, Puri and Konark, they have nicely linked where from the stones they got it, big stones of the order of 150,000 tons. And as well as also you have linked possible routes for those transportation of these bigger stones, nicely linked. So, and you have also linked with all the literature of Bhoja Jukti's Kalpataru with regard to type of boats and boat building. And also you have indicated the book on Paikokhera as well as the Fakir Mon Senapati is linked to marine literature. So you have also discussed the details with local carpenters to know the boat constructions, and but the shipbuilding techniques in wood you have studied, but much remains to be done to understand the old shipbuilding technology to the fullest extent. And the Kalinga Empire was existing from the Mahanadi basin in the north to southern Godavari basin. All those details also you have indicated. And the Kalinga kingdom has the naval bases and navy with so much of horsepower, elephant power, and some 60,000 soldiers, and all those details you have also indicated. And the sailors have taken advantage of the natural phenomena of the monsoon winds for seasonal trade as well as, and you have also indicated how the son and daughter of Ashoka, after defeat, they moved to Sri Lanka. All those details has been also nicely captured. Even as the rich cultural heritage is continuing in Orissa now, and this is celebrated as Boita Bandhana in the month of first week or second week of November. There is very less documented technical literature. You have to try to unfathom what best we could do it from the existing literature. And you have also linked the west side, also Arabian Sea, linkages to Arabian Sea trading and all those Gujarat and Kerala coast. However, the present day has received less attention for the eastern side of the seaboard. In conclusion, I can say Professor Misra's talk is an eye opener for anybody who is not even knowing anything about Navy or naval literature. It is a nicely lucid style he has presented. Anybody can understand. So I must congratulate for his like immense and exhaustive study. So now I think we can go for the question and answer sessions. Thank you, Professor Misra sir. Thank you all other panelists.
Thank you, sir. That was an excellent summing up by Mr. Page. Now we have some comments and some questions. I'll probably take the questions first. Professor Raju Sharma, I mean, we just added you to the panel, sir. You can ask the question. Please.
Thank you, sir. It's always good to listen to your teachers. I have a simple question, sir. How this knowledge which was existing in India was lost over a period of time?
Yeah. Should I answer? Yeah. I think I have indicated how the knowledge was lost in the modern period. Two things are important here. One is the political changes that took place were quite different from the political changes that took place in the earlier days, where the maritime trade and maritime operations continued in spite of political changes. But when the Portuguese came, and subsequently when the British, Dutch, and French people came, there are fights. There are fights of who would win a port, who will be the major port operator or boat owner and things like that. The fight was there at sea. The fight was there at land. If you go to Pipili, you will find a ruined structure, which was a kind of a lighthouse, a white structure, which was devastated by the Portuguese. And people were tortured. Portuguese were known to be cruel people. If they won, they took everybody as slaves. That kind of thing. So in that, even though the trade continued and the skill remained, people vanished. When people are not there, the skill cannot continue. People who are doing the trade vanished. That is one issue. And then, of course, the colonialization, the British moving away from northern Orissa to Calcutta and from Calcutta to Bombay. So people involved in the trade just simply vanished due to economic reasons, which was caused by political reasons. That was one. Second was the technical changes that took place. Previously, for 2,000, 3,000 years, people are using wind and solar power. Suddenly, you had propellers, diesel engines, welded ships, steel ships, and all that. So the old skill had no demand. Due to no demand, slowly vanished. That's how the skill vanished. I think, am I clear? Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. No further question from my side.
And we also have a few comments, sir, from the appreciation. Mr. Dasgupta has enjoyed your talk, and he's just thanking you for taking through the history. And Professor Rajesh Sharma had a suggestion that we have to revive, revive some boats, rivers and boats both need a revival. And Mr. Kalgati has appreciated your talk, boat building in Orissa, and he requests that you have to bring probably a detailed history of the Indian shipbuilding.
Sorry?
Professor
Say that again.
Kalgati is suggesting that you can bring out a book on the whole subject. I've written you a smaller book. Probably he's expecting a bigger book on the subject, which you can probably author.
Perhaps he doesn't know about my book.
Yeah.
I've written a book on this subject, Mr. Kalgadgi, and it will be available on our Frost website free of cost within a week.
And Mr. Ashwini Ota has also appreciated how you have taken the entire history from 4000 BC. And his point is something which I also agree, that this lecture points to a lot of research topics throughout your lecture, which any one of a random sentence can be taken, and all these things are worthy of a full research in itself, sir. Very comprehensive. And thank you, sir. Those were the appreciations. Mr. Apurvakar, he wants a question on naval warfare or shipping. Can we add Mr. Apurvakar to the panel, Amir? He can ask his question.
You're on the panel now. You can direct the question.
Yeah.
Apurva's question.
He has just typed, I have a query on naval warfare or shipping. So, yeah, please, sir. Please, sir. You can ask your questions.
You have to switch on your mic, Aburbada. Aburbada, you are not, your mic is not switched on. Mic is off.
So your mic is on mute, sir. You can just unmute and then ask your questions.
Not able to unmute?
Then he can ask on chat.
Yeah. Or you put your question, sir, I'll read it. If you can type your question also, I'll be able to read it.
You can put in his chat box that we are not able to. He is not able to listen also, I think.
I think there's some connection problem. Of course, we know, and we'll just correct him later, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Can you hear?
yeah.
Please, sir.
Yeah. Firstly, I
What happened?
Again, he's gone off. Yeah. Please, sir. Please.
yeah, it really shows where from we are coming, our origin, and what our ancestors were, and what kind of a country we are. And we know that our country had the highest GDP and highest per capita in those days. And these are the activities which actually made those things possible. And over the time, we lost many things. I think one very important thing, we're having a big gap and a lot of weakness. We never focused on how to protect ourselves. We did very good business. We developed a lot of technological know-hows and the management concepts. Really, we are extraordinarily rich. We can make out from all this documentation and whatever we can now gather. But the main, the one important missing was really we did not know how to protect ourselves. No concept of militia or those kind of things. That was a big. And now over the time, you see the present condition is our shipbuilding is totally focused now in naval ship, and we hardly into commercial shipbuilding. It's really is now become a poles apart. We are totally in a different mode now. We are only our most of our public sectors are shipbuilders are engaged only in making naval ships, and which is exactly opposite to what we used to have. We are a really rich merchant shipping country. That we have really lost it, and that was my submission. Because it has got, and I think some more persons like Professor Misra should come forward from other parts of the country, to dig out those historical knowledges and combine the thing together, and then we can have an excellent idea about what we are and how we can gain from those ancestral knowledge and the skill set. I think they were having a very good sense of about the nature, how the wind flows, how to deal with the river, how to deal with the currents. I think those days really people had, because those days there's no GPS, there was nothing. So even they managed those business so nicely. That means they really had, unfortunately, those days the concept of recording or making documentation was not there. So maybe if we do some more work, dig out the things, we may get a lot of valuable information from those sources. That is my submission. Thank you, sir.
Any comment?
Please, sir, your comments.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kaur, thank you very much. Actually, in the olden days, as I read that book, Paika Kheda, which Paika means soldier. It's a book on soldiering and naval practices. There is a separate chapter on naval warfare, in which it says that in 16th, 17th century, how the war was fought at sea. One of the most interesting things I found in that book is the use of steam. Use of steam in warfare. However, that may be. In our country, from 16th century till 20th century, you know the situation in the country. There was internal fights, internal struggles. There was Mughal struggles. There was the Maratha struggle was there. The British, the French, all kinds of troubles were this country's dark ages were those times when people didn't have any chance to improve on what they had. Unfortunately, that caused the downfall of everything. I suppose now we are in a position to reverse and proceed further for the glory that you are saying we should have had. Yes, and I do agree that more research is required to understanding how wars were fought in olden days, how the nature was used, natural forces were used to utilize defense, for the utilization of defense purposes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. No further comments we see. So I would now request, Mr. Ashwini Gota, please. Mr. Ashwini, you wanted to ask something, or you want to comment on something?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir, please.
Okay. Yep. Thank you, sir. I've put one of my remarks, which you can read later on. It's a very unique blend of trade, shipbuilding, naval architecture, religion, society, and inland water transport. That's very exciting to see. And I can only appreciate how much of digging in that you would have done, and the amount of work that you would have done to produce this work. But just coming to my question very briefly, if we look at the tradings between India, or let's say the eastern coast to Southeast Asia during that part, and if we like to extend it now to the modern times, would it make sense to have many smaller ships or smaller vessels carrying personalized products, not very large size, but maybe just produced very dedicated from small entrepreneurs carrying the products to the Southeast Asia through small ports and so on? Would that be a feasible commercial practice,
Well,
especially for the ornamental and rich merchandise like jewelries and things like that?
I mean, this is natural. In naval architecture, we know that smaller distances, smaller ships are more profitable than larger ships. I have given the time taken in olden days from Tamralipti to Java as 3 weeks. No, Ceylon to Java is 3 weeks, and 1 week from Tamralipti to Western Ceylon. That is 4 weeks total from Tamralipti to Java. Now, if you take these 4 weeks at the rate of 6 knots of speed on an average, and if you increase the speed to say about 12 knots, then you just reduce the time by half. And of course, your better maneuvering capacity and other things, it will still reduce further because there will be better control on your ship in these days. So it's possible to do trading between East Asian countries and Indian East Coast at a much cheaper rate and profitably by small entrepreneurs. When we were doing that container project, I remember carrying 650 container, a feeder container vessel. They gave 1 week time from Singapore to Chennai. So that's a long time. Actual travel time is 3 to 4 days. And you have 1 or 2 days margin. That's how it comes to 1 week. So similarly, within 1 week, you can travel from Kalinga to some Malaysian peninsula, a little longer to Indonesia. Yes, it is possible. Why not? 100 meter, 150 meter ships going up to this peninsula for small builders, small entrepreneurs. Yes, it is possible.
So my comment on that was an important point, sir. As we go through maritime history, container ship is something which is probably a 20th century.
Yeah.
So, and container ship is both in one sense modular because I can book a single container in the trading sense. At the same time, the shipping industry and how the shipping industry has changed because of containerization and how goods are transported because of country, that requires a separate thought altogether. But yes, it has significantly changed the way trading happens in some sense. That's.
But it also holds for other types of ships.
Yeah.
Small distances, small ships is ideal.
Yes, ideal. And the other factor is the containerization itself, which offers a lot of flexibility for just like an airline. I can book a single seat, I can book a single container. That option is there.
Yeah.
That was my very brief comment, and it's also giving me a thought for probably organizing a future INA lecture on that and inviting Professor Misra as the chief guest chair. Now, I would request Dr. Manukurila to offer his comments before we conclude.
Yeah, sir, thank you very much, Professor Misra, my professor and guide. And his first slide, why talk on such a topic to INA, which he has asked me as well. But now we are all quite sure that why this lecture and the importance of the relevance of it we have understood. He has introduced us to a new domain. Actually, it's so interesting. And now everybody in India must be thinking, even people who have not seen sea, they may also look at the history, to see whether they can produce something similar to what has happened otherwise. Yukti Kalpana, if that can be brought about by Bhojraja, why not all others? This is a new thinking. But some points what he has brought is quite interesting. One point is that all the ancient ships, they used to carry an astrologer. So the sea's unpredictability was well understood. And that was the only way. You have to depend only on astrologers. You cannot predict anything. And people were worried about the unpredictable sea all the time. And at this point in time, in some of the recent accidents that has happened at Cochin and at Calicut, probably, INA has to take a look why those things have happened, and if that happens, what has to be done. Even government is wondering what has to be done. One ship which is having fire, the fire is spreading, and people are, just like sitting duck without doing any activity. People are not sure what has to be done. I think it is naval thinking which is much wider, much more, and look into all these areas. I really appreciate, sir, for this magnificent work. And I think probably every INA member should read this book. And INA is basically, if possible, these books, soft copy, how we can put it in the INA and, at a cost, which has to go to the author for the cost, whatever he is intended to, how we can bring in more readership for and benefit by the Naval Architects of India, how they get benefited out of these books. And his new book is also coming, which is talking about, I think, thick ships of India and vessels of India. And that will be, he must be bringing about more books. I also agree that he should bring about more books in the same direction. Now, the research methodology is readily there, and we should, or we should bring in some more, PhD scholars to work in the same line. I really thank you, sir, for this wonderful session. I also thank Shri Purushottam Bej, former Director General, Resources and Management of DRDO, for really bringing in the salient points of the presentation. He could really appreciate the whole presentation, and thank you for coming and chairing this session as chief guest. Your support for the entire community, on behalf of the entire community, I appreciate, sir, your support and presence. Let us, beyond what we normally deal with, some of the talks of this direction will make us more generous in looking at what is our tradition, what is our history, and where we should be going ahead. One small point which I wanted to bring about is two lieutenant commanders of Indian Navy, lady lieutenant commanders, they have circumnavigated on a sailboat all around the world. Now, they were telling, similar experience. What Professor Misra has brought about today, the second most important point, the first one was about astrology. Second one is that at that time, they were fixing how you can effectively utilize the current and the wind directions. And they had the idea when we should sail to what direction. And if you look at, they were environmental friendly, sustainable. Now we are making all, systems that pollute the sea. At that point in time, all the trade and all these things used to happen, but it was without polluting the environment. So we can have a relook with the advent of new technologies, with the advent of AI and all other things. Even small wind which is coming from any direction, a sail which can adjust itself using all this artificial intelligence and robotics. Probably we can have a sail system which will make the ship move to the direction which it is supposed to move in all the seasons. And it is also an indication that people have set to sail without any other means other than natural means. Even now, with the new advent of all the knowledge that we have achieved, we should have such systems introduced into ships. Thank you, Professor Misra, once again. congratulate Dr. Bharadwaj Srinivasan for conducting it so well. Amir Ahmed has made a lot of effort in bringing about, at a short span of time, all the things in the best manner possible. I appreciate all the people who have made comments and their suggestions. And I appreciate all the participants, students, for making this lecture a meaningful one. Once again, sir, thank you. Over to Bharadwaj.
Thank you, sir. I mean, I'm supposed to give the vote of thanks, and you've already done it. So I would formally do the vote of thanks of thanking Mr. Bej first. We knew that you were the right person to charge this session, and for your excellent summing up and appreciation. Thank you, sir. We are very happy to have had you here. Professor Misra, yes, he has brought in his entire 60 years of experience into that book, and as well as the talk combining geography, ethnography, historical geography, and say literature, everything packed, and naval architecture, of course, packed into this lecture. Thank you, sir. Thank you. It was an eye-opener in a lot of ways. And we had Professor Raju Sharma, Mr. Apur Bakar, Mr. Das Gupta, and Mr. Kalgetki offering very useful suggestions either in the chat box or directly, and Mr. Ashwin Mota, all offering either joining our discussions or offering comments to the chat box. Thank you, sir. And we had around 20 people formally registered, but I understand that there were also people who were directly streaming it sitting in the hall from Indian Maritime University, as well as the Calcutta chapter of INA. So the utterance is much more than 20, even though we see it as 20 users. Thanks all for joining, and have a great weekend. Thank you. And I thank Dr. Manuparulla, who has been the guide behind us, INA President, and Amir, who is silently behind and ensuring that technically, seamlessly, all these things are happening, and the INA Executive Council members who enable all these things to happen. Thank you, sir, and today's lecture can conclude. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.